Now, let me first make sure this part of the video is as clear as I can be. I think it is extremely important for us in the hobby to see the scammy and deceitful things and to do what we can to uproot those kinds of actions that truly lack integrity. I think there is absolutely no good in sticking one's head in the sand and just pretending those things don't exist. Even for someone just entering the hobby, I don't think there is any positive advantage to shielding these realities from them from the get-go, as I've heard some people suggest. But at the same time, I think these what could be called negative hobby realities are things that don't have to cast a negative sheen on the hobby in an overall sense, like they sometimes seem to do for many people. Let me connect this to a personal story. When I graduated from high school, I had an urge to see and understand the world. This desire was definitely nurtured by my parents when they encouraged me to take my GED and leave high school early so our family could go live in China for a year, which we did. They were particularly eager to get the heck out of Dodge, or Springfield in my case, because during my junior year in high school, my school had a horrific school shooting in which 24 students were shot. That was a wake-up call for my parents that they wanted to expand my experiences and help me to see the world in a wider way than my small town could provide. So off we went to China, my parents, my autistic brother, and me. And expand my view of the world, it definitely did. After living in China for a year, I began college in the US, and I knew right away that I wanted to study international relations. I had a deep-seated desire to understand and contribute to the world meaningfully, and I thought that was a way I could do so. If I was to summarize the outlook of life of all these fresh-faced first-year international relations college students, I would say that there was this general optimism that we could learn to contribute to the world in meaningful ways. In some ways, there was a real palpable feeling that we could accomplish good things. But over the next 4 years, as we began to dig deeper and deeper into different things related to how the world operated, there was a distinct change, a constant nurturing of cynicism that caused many/most of my classmates to feel completely disempowered and incapable to contribute to the world in any real way. There were exceptions to this from specific individuals here and there who took it all in as like extra motivation to focus themselves of doing what they could, but those were just really a very few individuals with kind of stronger roots. For most of my classmates, the knowledge they were gaining seemed to be merely causing them to become less willing to do much of anything because of an overwhelming feeling that it was all too big and too chaotic and too full of unending negatives. For me, I had a different framework from a lot of people. Growing up as a third-generation Baha'i, I had been nurtured from an early age with certain understandings about the world. I was taught from the time I was an infant about the importance of working towards unity, of working towards overcoming prejudice, of working towards overcoming hate with a more powerful force of love, and that those things are challenging and required effort and learning and growth. Concepts like that were embedded in my upbringing. And when I was learning about these negatives happening in the world in college, it wasn't a surprise to me. I was gaining knowledge and understanding those negatives in deeper ways over time, but it didn't move me away at all from my original purpose in wanting to learn about these things so I could align my life to at least do what I could do to make the world, or at least a little pixel or two within my reach, better. I had a framework that made the knowledge beneficial to me and not become a source of unending cynicism like it seemed to be doing to so many of the people that I knew. So when I look at the discussions about the hobby today, it oftentimes reminds me of my experience in college. I see people learning more and more about the realities of those negatives and it turning them cynical and making them feel disempowered and like it's all too chaotic and negative for them to really do anything about it. And that's not what understanding the realities of things should be doing. We need a better framework. For myself, I recognize that the world in many ways is a pretty effed up place. The effed upness, as should really be expected, is just as apparent in the hobby as it is anywhere else. I'd honestly expect it to be that way. The effed upness is like the default setting. And uneffing things in whatever context requires ongoing, sustained effort. And even with ongoing effort, the effed upness will try to keep pulling you into its void. It's like the default is the upside down, and something more like what should be normalcy is what requires tons of efforts to attain. That's what I expect. So for me, to see the negatives in the hobby, it's not nurturing cynicism. I want to know these things, I expect to see these things, and I want to know them so I can see the full picture more clearly so that I can take my steps with open eyes and again, maybe do a little bit to improve those spaces. I expect hanky-panky to exist, I expect shenanigans to be all over the place, but I also see that all these negatives are just a part of the whole picture and that there is the potential for something much better. So the knowledge of those negatives only causes me to want to do what I can do to make the pixel or two of the painting within my reach as beautiful as I can make it. Without cold, you can't perceive heat. Without darkness, you can't perceive light. Without understanding the negatives, you can't perceive the positives.